Hi, welcome to the next Tao in a Minute. Okay, so after the series on identity, meanings, and behaviors, I got a lot of email and a lot of people asking me, okay, so how do I use that, right? How do I make this work in my everyday life? And one of the biggest questions I came up with is, how do you do it in a relationship, right? So how do I work on my identity while being in a relationship? How do I work on a behavior when she won't let me do this or he's always doing that, right? So here's how this works. Relationships are nothing more than two people walking a path, side by side, simultaneous, juxtaposed, however you want to look at it. But one of the biggest misconceptions about walking that path is that you're walking the same path. Every human is born and every human dies. And in between, wherever your feet land is your path. But what we're here to do, each of us, there's no way to know. It's based on our choices, right? Our decisions, our choices are what will move us forward on our path, our Tao, towards our destiny. What is a destiny? What's your destination? So I live in Houston, Texas right now. The interstate that runs through it is I-10, Interstate Highway 10. And if I decide to get on I-10 and go west, then my destiny is, well, San Antonio. Or if I keep going, it's Midland, Odessa, or El Paso, or hell, it could even be LA. Because that's my destiny. I've decided to take that path. But if I change my decision, if I change my choice and say, when I get to, San Antonio, I'm going to go north. And I go 35 north, well, then my destiny has changed. Instead of LA, it's Dallas or points unknown. And so how we choose our identity, how we choose our relationships, how we choose everything in our life is based on our decisions. This doesn't matter to most people because they think, well, my genetics say this or my predispositions. No, more than anything else in your life, it's the choices you make. And most people say, well, I made bad choices, but I've changed those choices, so I shouldn't have to deal with anything. Well, you are free to make the choices you want to make, but you're not free to live consequence-free of the choices you have made. For example, if I get on I-10 and I decide, you know what, I'm not going to veer off. I'm going to go to LA. And I'm traveling along and I get completely drunk and I get completely, smashed. And a Texas state trooper pulls me over and I get taken to jail for being over the legally intoxicated limit. Maybe I hit another car. I have to pay for those decisions. Now, let's say after I get done with all of that, I decide, you know what? I'm going to go the straight and narrow. I'm going to go, I-35 north. I've changed my decision about how I'm going to drive. I've changed the decision about the path I'm going to drive on. But I have not changed the decision I had made originally, because whereas destiny comes from our decision and where we're going, fate is how we decide to behave or how we decide to acquit ourselves while we are on that path. And we are free to shape up and do new things. But we've made choices in our life. And we can do the best to mitigate and learn from those choices. But those choices will never be sort of undone until we really get the lesson of who we were when we made those choices. This is a very, very important concept, because when you get into relationships, you have to have this information before you get into the relationship. You have to have this information before you decide, I'm going to go couple my path with another person's. Because the truth is, when we get into a relationship with another person, we're really still in a relationship with ourselves. And if we haven't worked that out, when we get into a relationship with other people, well, all we're doing is co-signing an experience, and they're co-signing ours, but we don't truly understand who we are. And so the things we like, we put on them in the beginning and we love them so much. And the things we don't like, well, later we put that on them. And that's the things we can't stand about them, but it's really us. So we're going to start a series now of Tao in a Minute based on relationship and how Taoists look at relationships, how Taoists comport themselves in a relationship. But I'm going to give you a homework assignment to help you through. So you can do this with a loved one, you can do this with a business, you can do this with anyone. Because what it's about, a relationship is about how you relate to yourself and then by extension other people. So here's your homework. You're going to take a piece of paper and I want you to write down a relationship you want to have. It can be a business relationship, an intimate relationship. It can be with your kids. It can be with your husband or wife's parents, your own parents. It doesn't matter. But take a relationship that you want to work on. And I want you to write down very clearly. You have to be clear. The more clarity you get, the more of a real chance you have of having the relationship and the life you want. Very clearly write down, what do you want that relationship to have? Is it based on trust? And what does that mean to you? Well, we want to be happy. Well, what the hell does happiness mean? You know, baby ducks cause happiness. You want baby ducks in your relationship? What do you need in your relationship? This is about knowing yourself. This is about knowing what you want, because what you want is just a hieroglyph for what you need. Take these concepts and write them out very clearly. Maybe it takes pages, but it's worth it to put that kind of work into the relationship you want. And then the very next one, I want you to do this. Who do you have to become in order to have that relationship? Who do you need to be? I want a person that is in a relationship with somebody who's respectful. What does respectful mean? And if you want a person to respect you, who do you need to be that can be respected that way? This is a very, very important thing. Okay, so as we go through these things, this is the preliminary work, because you're going to refer back to these assignments. You're going to refer back to this because we're going to build on it each and individual step. But this is the work I do in the clinic. This is the work that I do with my students, with my disciples, because it's when we can be affable and amiable, when we can allow things to be what they are, that we can truly allow ourselves to be what we are. Okay? I've taken up enough of your time. So if you have any questions, if you have any ideas, if there's things that you want to share, put it in the comments. Or if it's something private, again, you can always email me at lau@fourdragonschool.com. You can share this with somebody if you want to create a group, or if you want to work on this with some friends or within your family. You can hit like if you think it's brought value to your life. But whatever it does, let it move you to action, because goals are only as valuable as the amount of action you take on them, okay? So until then, we'll see you next time on Down in a Minute.